This is the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, and it's gotten a serious upgrade. But will the changes be enough to finally make the Endorphin Pro a true marathon super shoe? It's time to lace up the Endorphin Pro 3 and take them for a run. .36 miles total for today, taking the Endorphin Pro 3 out for some mile repeats at threshold pace, plus threw in a couple of 200-meter repeats at mile race pace so I can get a sense of what this shoe is all about. Also took this shoe for another run where I did a long stretch at marathon effort to round out my pace testing for this shoe. Before I give you my thoughts on the Endorphin Pro 3 and how it's changed from last year, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a shoe that I purchased myself. No one sent it to me. No one's paying me to make this video. No one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. First, let's go over some specs on this shoe. Overall, throughout this video, I'm going to really be comparing a lot to the Endorphin Pro 2, which was very similar, if not identical, to the Endorphin Pro 1. So if you're not familiar with those shoes and need some context, I'll post some links in the description so you can see what that shoe was all about. This year we have some increased stack height. We're going up to 39.5 millimeters of stack height in the heel, just below the top legal allowable limit for world athletics purposes. And there's an 8 millimeter drop in the shoe, giving us 31.5 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. In this midsole, we've got two main components. We've got Power Run PB, which is Saucony's super foam. It's a pellet-based foam that looks a lot like Boost, but it's a lot lighter and much more performance-oriented. Also in this shoe, we've got a carbon fiber plate, which you can see through not one, but two windows in the bottom of the shoe through the arch and through this little slot in the forefoot that has the word Speed Roll Technology written onto the plate. Now what that Speed Roll Technology is just a geometry change, a little curving of the shoe forward to help the shoe roll a little bit. And also I think that when it comes to carbon plated shoes, having that roll in the front, that geometry where the shoe curls up a little bit, helps you as you're pushing off in the toe off of your gait cycle, load that carbon a little bit to give you just that little bit of extra spring as you're pushing off and getting into your next stride. On that outsole, we have a very different change in the rubber setup. We still have the XT900 rubber formulation from Saucony, but there's much more coverage this year than there was in the last 2 years of this shoe. Although I will have to say that this year I had a little bit of wetness for that longer run that I did. And even though there's more rubber coverage, I feel like it just feels a little bit slipperier than last year. But I think the main reason why you go with more surface area coverage in a shoe like this is to protect that Power Run PB foam. And there's definitely going to be more protection here. Moving to the upper, we have what looks like a very substantial change. We've got this beautiful fishnet type of upper that's pretty much see-through, and it's got these like reflective, like fish scaly like accents to give it a little bit of extra something on that upper, which I think looks really fantastic in this black version. But I will say overall in terms of the fit, it still fits true to size like it did last year. And the overall kind of like comfort and snugness and like excellent Saucony racer fit still exists, and it fits very much similarly as the Endorphin Pro 1 and the Endorphin Pro 2. Altogether, this comes in at a stated weight of 7.2 ounces or 204 grams. Now let's talk about what it was like to run in this shoe. Now for years, I've been complaining that the Endorphin Pro was a fantastic shoe for threshold efforts or half marathon racing, but it just wasn't soft enough for me as a non-elite regular guy that just runs a lot to take it for a marathon race distance. I mean, I could probably do a longer run in it, and I've done longer runs in previous versions of the Endorphin Pro, but it's not something I really wanted to race in, and I was really hoping that would make it softer. I'm happy to report that this year it is softer, and you can feel it from step in all the way up to threshold pace, and you feel that soften, and it's very pleasant. It's most noticeable at step in and at slower speeds. Now it feels like a shoe that isn't a pain to take on a workout where there's going to be a couple of different pace changes, maybe some recovery jogging in between. Like, the softness is definitely appreciated in the shoe. At threshold paces, that's where the Endorphin Pro 1 and 2 excelled. It still really excels for me there. I feel like the way that this foam kind of squishes and then rebounds, combined with the carbon fiber plate, which adds both stability and a little bit of spring to it, I think is just absolutely ideal for threshold paces. It has been a shoe that I've always reached for my toughest mile repeat workouts. And it's probably still going to be a shoe that I really look forward to on those kinds of days, or if I'm lining up for a half marathon, similar to how I use the Endorphin Pro 1 and Endorphin Pro 2. When I went up to mile race pace for those 200-meter repeats, the shoe, the lightness definitely shines through, and that snug fitting, well-fitting upper also becomes really pleasant to have on foot, and the shoe can handle those faster paces for something shorter like a 200 meter or some strides that are going to be even shorter than 100 meters or so. The shoe definitely can handle all the different paces that someone who's training for a marathon is going to be encountering over the course of the marathon training block. Now, the ultimate question for me in terms of this version 3 update was, is this now finally a marathon racer? And I think it definitely is. That extra bit of softness you can really feel at that marathon effort as well. And I feel like it makes the shoe a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more comfort oriented than it has been in previous years, while still giving a nice sense of pop and propulsion as you're trying to hit some of those faster times. It still retains that endorphin kind of like character while being forgiving enough now to make it that marathon distance. Personally, I do wish that it had a little bit more kind of like airiness in the midsole. Like, I wish like the foam kind of traveled a little bit more. I just wish it was still a little bit softer, even more still. Maybe that's what we'll see in the Endorphin Pro 4. So those are my thoughts so far about the Endorphin Pro 3. It's finally a shoe that marathoners can actually use for marathon racing as well as for their marathon training. I'm very excited about it. It's a fantastic update to last year. They tweaked it quite a bit without losing the essence of what this shoe was. I think that's always something that's super challenging when you had a shoe that was already really excellent. So that's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?